Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to day two of In Search of Myself. Surprise, surprise, even for myself, that I'm putting up another video on day two. But this is kind of how my brain works. I got lots of ideas in my head and I want to share things. And then, of course, I start questioning myself. And anyway, I'm going to end with an idea that kind of connects to that. But I just wanted to share a few things with you today, mainly about, what exactly am I searching for and what does that mean? So just very quickly, I'll explain that, first of all, why I decided to make this video today is I was having a look around for a book. I've been reading the M. Scott Peck series called The Road Less Traveled. He has three books in that series. And don't tell my mom this, um, but she loaned me all the books. She claims she loaned me all the books. I have yet to find the first one. I actually read the second and the third. Lots of really good insight into them, in them. And so while I was looking for the first, I found this book, In Search of Ourselves. This is my grade 11, I think, short story textbook. I'm not sure I'm supposed to still have it, but I do. I don't think it's used anymore. Haven't had a chance to actually look and see which stories. I'll maybe save that for another time because I know there are some stories that are still in my head from high school. But today I just want to talk kind of relatively quickly about the whole idea of, what am I searching for? What is this idea of, in search of myself? Well, like I said the other day, it's partly that bringing all the me's together. It's also a little bit of kind of reflecting on all the me's I've been. I really do feel like I've lived, uh, geez, I don't know, a dozen, 20 different lives, and been very different people in those lives. Big moments where kind of things change dramatically. Um, However, one thing that is constant is that I feel like and again, this might be one of the things I discover isn't necessarily true when I start talking to other people, but I feel like I've always been someone who questioned things. Can't remember exactly when it started. I can say that I know in high school, I was really engaged in high school. Not the best student, didn't do all my work. But if you challenged me or gave me an opportunity to talk about ideas, I would run with it. I loved having discussions. I still do love having discussions. Part of the reason I'm doing this. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where the title comes from. We are, I think, all of us in some ways searching for ourselves. So I just want to be a little more specific about it. Um, Part of it is understanding consciousness. I think I mentioned yesterday maybe that meditation has become part of my life. Just sitting quietly and exploring. And again, I'll talk more about this in the future, about some more of the details of it. But I try to sit for at least 15 minutes a day, sometimes more. And it's been very good for me. Again, just to kind of quiet my mind and to get to know myself a little bit better. The other part of it, I think, is the whole idea of just simply being curious. I'm going to come back to this a number of times, I'm sure, as well. I think we all are born curious. My experience with young children is that they are endlessly curious, and we seem to, in our culture, um, teach that curiosity out of people. When um, I taught high school, so I would often have students who weren't super interested in being there. And when I would ask them, were you always like this? Did you ever like school? They would often say that no, somewhere along the lines, usually somewhere around grade 7 to 9, they lost interest. Again, I mean, there are, I think, reasons for that. Just simply being an adolescent is part of that. And but I think there's more to it than that. I do think that we'd be much better off if we could feed their curiosity. I certainly know that I've been very fortunate to do that. So like I said, I've always been. I feel like I've lived a whole bunch of different lives, but in every one of those, there's that common theme of searching, right, or seeking, or being curious, or trying to understand how people's brains work, how my own brain works, why we're here. I was raised in a Christian family, so certainly, questioning of God came into my mind. Um, and so that's what this is really about. Again, it's just trying to understand who I am and how I got to this place in my life. Um, just a couple things that I wrote down the other day. I talked about this being a bit kind of like research for a memoir. A little bit has to do with seeking through my art. All right, so I think I'm getting more comfortable using that term. At one time, I would never have thought of myself as being artistic at all. In high school, if you had said that I would be doing something artistic, I would have laughed because it just wasn't my thing. But now I'm starting to understand that, yes, I am an artist. And part of that art is seeking. So I've written here that, seeking the meaning of life, understanding consciousness, myself, any of those things. And yeah, I don't know why again, but I do feel like personal growth is very important. Self-awareness is very important, and these are things I put a lot of depth, a lot of work into. I heard this line the other day: "You can't stop the waves, but I can learn to surf." Right, and I think that relates to what I'm trying to do here as well. I think it's also important to remember that. Uh, well, I'll get into kind of the way we think in the future too, but that sometimes we forget that. Not knowing everything is a good thing, right? Too often we listen to people who are extremely confident, and in the end, they don't really know what they're doing, as we discover. Here's something else I saved the other day. It says, in a world full of people who seem to know everything passionately, based on little, often slanted information, where certainty is often mistaken for power, what a relief it is to be in the company of someone confident enough to stay unsure. That is perpetually curious. George Saunders wrote that. And yes, that's how I feel. I am sorry, I can't say the word, perpetually curious, and I don't have all the answers. I know that. Someone said the other day they're looking forward to my answers, and my response was, probably realistically, if it's like the rest of my life, I won't come to. I'll get some answers, but those answers will lead to just more questions. And that's something else that I often practiced and taught all my students as well, was that we should question everything. Certainly, we should question authority. Doesn't mean be rude to authority or be rude to other people, but we all have a duty to question things, right? To try to understand. Because as I said to them, question me. And if I can't answer your questions, then why am I doing what I'm doing? And I think that's a pretty simple idea and a pretty simple rule to live with. Um, I'm going to stop there. Actually, I'll just share two more things. Here's something else that I thought was related to what I'm doing now. This is an idea from Rachel Naomi Remen, I think is how you say it. Perhaps the secret of living well is not in having all the answers, but in pursuing unanswerable questions in good company. And I know I have had the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to do that. And I hope that this kind of becomes a little bit like that. This is also part of what I'm trying to do. So this was part of Mr. Peck's book that I read the other day. This is a poem, I guess we call it a poem, by Edward Sanford called "My Name is Legion." And so when I talk about searching for who I am and all the different me's, this really captures that. Within my earthly temple, there's a crowd. There's one of us that's humble, one that's proud. There's one that's brokenhearted for his sins. There's one that unrepentant sits and grins. There's one that loves his neighbor as himself, and one that cares for naught but fame and pelf. From much corroding care I should be free, if I could once determine which is me. And I'm not sure if I mentioned the word honesty earlier, and truth. Again, those things have always been important to me. I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect. Please don't think that, and that I've made lots of mistakes in my life. And yes, I probably have lied at times, but I have discovered that living and searching with truth and honesty is a very rewarding way to do things. And it's really the only way I guess we can get to the truth. So again, part of me is trying to deal with those different ideas as well. I'll leave you with this. So like I said earlier on, uh, sometimes for me, it's just, I have to do things, right? If my brain gets going too much, I talk myself out of stuff. I have lots of days where I look at my photography and I don't like a lot of it. I think I'm a horrible photographer, but I've got to the point now where I also understand that might just be the day. So the other day on CBC Radio, I heard a guy talking about flow, and this is something else I've read a lot about. This idea of the flow state, where time seems to fly by, and we accomplish lots of great stuff. And in it, he said something really interesting that I hadn't thought about before. He said that in order to get to the flow state, you have to get really good at something, and then you have to stop thinking about it. And I feel like I'm probably at that point where I'm really good at some stuff. Certainly, I feel like I'm good at photography, pretty good writer, um, but I find it very difficult not to think about it and to let go. And so that's part of the reason I posted this video today, in that I'm just, I saw the book. It made me think that I need to do this, so I did it. I'll stop there. Thanks for listening. Hope you will come back. Again, if you have comments or questions about any of this, things you want to add, I will do my best to reply to all of them. Thanks so much. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.